Mr. Dodaro, since you're the only one that will be formally doing an opening statement, you may take such time as you may need, but your entire opening statement will be placed in the record, and you're recognized.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. Good afternoon to you, Ranking Member Cummings, Congressman Mica, Congressman Desjarlais. I appreciate the opportunity to be here today to discuss GAO's 2014 report. In this report, we identify 26 new areas in addition to the 162 areas we identified before. 11 of the areas deal with overlap, fragmentation, and potential duplication in the Federal Government. Half of those 11 areas deal with the Department of Defense. And one example I would provide today has to do with systems to control their satellite operations. What we found is they're using more dedicated systems rather than shared systems over a period of time in the last several years, in particular during the last decade, which means that they're fragmented systems and potentially duplicative. And so they have one system for one satellite as opposed to having one ground-based system that would save hardware, software, and personnel costs that could service many satellites. We think implementation of our recommendations in this area could save millions, if not hundreds of millions of dollars. We also found duplication and overlap in special payments that are made for unemployment insurance and disability insurance. Those programs are meant to operate separately, but there's a potential loophole where we found that people can receive both benefits at the same time. In effect, the Federal Government's replacing lost income from these individuals twice, not just once, as intended. CBO has said that enactment of legislation to close this loophole could save $1.2 billion over a 10-year period of time. We also found 15 other areas where there are opportunities for cost savings. One example I would cite is the Alternative Technology Vehicle Manufacturing Loan Program. We found that there's $4.2 billion in already appropriated credit subsidy costs that are available, but the Department of Energy has not demonstrated a need for that money, and we recommended that unless they do, Congress could rescind all or a portion of the $4.2 billion. There's really not a lot of active applications for loans under that program currently. We also found that there's opportunities to collect amounts of delinquent taxes. For example, in not issuing passports to people who have delinquent taxes that are owed to the Federal Government. Right now, you can collect child support payment that way, but you can't prevent somebody from getting a passport. CBO estimates that if a provision is passed to allow them to allow the State Department to withhold passports from people who owe delinquent taxes, the Federal Government could receive about $500 million in a 5-year period of time. Also, there's the ability to potentially offset payments of delinquent taxes to Medicaid providers. Right now, that is able to be done for Medicare, but not for Medicaid. Additional revenues could accrue to the Federal Government as a result of that. Now, in addition to identifying new areas, we track the 162 areas that we recommended previously, and they had about over 380 specific actions that needed to be taken. And if I draw your attention to the chart that we have here, the dark blue on the bottom shows the increase in the amount of areas that have been addressed over time. So roughly of the over 380 actions that have been recommended by us, about a third have been implemented. The partially implemented are another 44%, and about 19% haven't been addressed at all, either by the executive branch or the Congress. Now, of the areas that have been addressed, as you mentioned, Mr. Chairman, we can score the savings that occur after the fact. Of the areas that have been addressed, over $10 billion has already been saved to the Federal Government because of actions by the Congress and by the executive branch. And those actions will also result in the future of about another $60 billion in savings over a period of time. And some of these areas, Mr. Chairman, as you mentioned, were used to help offset the sequester last year so that we were able to take targeted reductions without disrupting services to the public unnecessarily. So there has been action on many of the recommendations. Billions of dollars is being saved, will be saved, but there's a lot yet still on the table to be dealt with that could lead to a lot more savings and more efficient and effective operations for the American taxpayers. So we're dedicated to continuing to follow up on these areas, Mr. Chairman, and thank you very much for the opportunity to be here today.